So it's been like a year, I think, since I posted on this channel, which makes it just like one of my computer builds. Anyway, this, if you guys haven't been following my social media, this is my R8. I picked this up actually January 1st. And my first video about this car is actually gonna not be about the car at all. It's gonna be about something I don't like on the car and the fact that we're gonna change it, theoretically. Okay, so this is a 2020 R8 base. What that means is it's not the performance, it doesn't have the ceramic brakes or any of that stuff, but I went from 562 horsepower up to 630 because we put a VF engineering tune on it, which is basically a Performante tune. Same exact V10 found in the Huracan and all the trims of the Huracan, just detuned in an R8. The Performance, or the Plus, has 601 horsepower, I think it is. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But as you can see, the Performance models have a static carbon wing. And I don't like these electronic actuated pop-up wings like this. I just don't. I feel like these mid-engine cars that just have a real long sloping roofline look incomplete without something in the back. That goes for Huracans, that goes for Porsches, that goes for anything that just, I feel like is in this exotic slash hyper slash supercar category, needs a big wing. So I got a bunch of stuff. I did some searching online and I found all the OEM pieces. Everything we're gonna remove from here, this actuator piece, all the base plates and everything, I have from Volkswagen, from Germany. Yes, it's VAG, Volkswagen Auto Group has helped develop this car with Audi. And so I am going to be removing the actuator piece, the trim and everything to get to the mounts so that we can mount this guy. This is the base plate that you would find for the spoiler on a Plus or Performance model, anything 2016 or newer. This had to be painted, so I took this to my paint guy and we paint matched it to the Mythos black that's on my car here. And I have to assemble this. It has a vent that goes right here, like mesh. The wing I'll show you here, this is a 1016 Industries carbon fiber wing. And so basically it's a lot like OEM, only it's a little wider and a little taller. But I have to assemble all of this, and if all goes according to plan and it all works, I will be taking this doohickey right here from Rostec, and anyone that has any VAG or Volkswagen Auto Group car knows exactly what this is. This is VDCS. This is a USB to OBD2 interface that has freeware software that allows you to mimic all of the dealer scan tools, which means I can go in here and actually code this vehicle. I can change the coding. Because I don't know if you guys know this, almost all these cars have the exact same software loaded on them. They just have toggle switch turned on and off for features. But I have to use this to decode the pop-up actuated spoiler. Because if the car says, hey, let's check all of our CAN bus stuff and let's talk, and it says, hey, spoiler, are you there? And you don't get a response, it's gonna give me a warning. And then anytime I hit 66 miles per hour on the freeway, it'll give me another warning saying the spoiler isn't working. So we can just code it out. Also too, I wanna preface this, you're gonna see me leaning over the vehicle without using a fender guard, even though I have one, because this car is fully wrapped from front to rear. Every piece you see on this car, with the exception of the mesh, does have like an 8 mil thick clear PPF. So that's paint protection film. That's why I'm touching it and stuff. It is completely protected. So if you see me leaning over it, I'll make sure I have nothing on me that can like gouge the PPF. But even if it did get scuffs on it, this is the self-healing kind. So now we're just gonna switch over to vlog style, where basically it's just gonna be three idiots work on a really expensive car and hope they don't break it. So the back piece here, you have to pop up the spoiler first, because then I can get to the bolts underneath to get this piece out. On the Performance model, you can't get anything back here off until you take off this piece, this piece, this piece, and then you can get to these bolts. But my biggest concern is whether or not I have to take off the full rear bumper, because you see this pan, there's like a pan down in here. You can see the actuator rods. The actuator's up under there. I have to replace it with this one. Where the hell is the opening?
Probably down.
I'll make one. I made my own.
Oh, okay.
So this is the replacement piece that goes in there. You can see right here these studs that pop up. There's a bracket that will mount to this, and then the spoiler ends up, well, the deck piece ends up mounting to this, and then the spoiler mounts to these brackets here. These are what they call halter retainers. These mount over on the side, like that, and then you can see this opening right here. The spoiler actually passes down through that, and then a bolt goes that way through the spoiler. So it's really interesting the way it's mounted down. It's not a spoiler on a flimsy piece of metal. It's a spoiler mounted to the deck lid, which is also mounted to this, and then the spoiler passes through the deck lid, through these holes right here, and then mounts into the halter I just showed you. So it's like mounted in 4 different places, making it really rigid, and essentially it's a chassis mount. You know, you see these cars, like even my ZL1, the spoiler's mounted to the trunk lid. You know, so that's a loose piece of the vehicle technically. But this is gonna affectionately and effectively make it a chassis mounted system. So quite honestly, this is exploratory surgery on a supercar. I've already taken this off. It just can't see. Nick's now shining it in my eyes. Wow. You're helping me not sabotage me. You literally were pointing that shit right at my face.
It's the Battlefield 3 beta experience.
Got my macro key so I can strobe it.
The real challenge is, can we get through all this? God, knock on every piece of wood without dropping any bolts down in the abyss. I had to order so many specialty tools just to work on this car.
Welcome to German cars.
Yeah.
I mean, willkommen du.
Willkommen du
Auto
Deutschen Auto.
Deutschen Auto.
Du hast dein Auto Tools.
Yay, done.
I like how they index these, just so they know, like, did anyone mess with this? Like, these 2 bolts only are indexed. Whatever. These are the bolts I was talking about. And you see how this top piece for the bumper comes over it? That's what I'm wondering if once all this is out, if I undo them, if it will slide out that way. The other thing too is like, this part of the bumper right here is separate from here, but you can't get this off without undoing about 400 nuts and bolts and heat shields and jacking it up and wheels and tires and fender liners. And if it has to go that route, I'll probably just wait until we do the exhaust, because all that has to come up anyway. So that's my gamble here, is not whether or not all that stuff will fit, because we know it will, it's OEM. It's whether or not I can get this one off. I have to take that one and that one off, and then these pieces just come. You can see the bolt I need to get to, it's right there.
Yeah.
So you have to undo all this just to loosen this, so it will move away just enough to get this and the bracket out. I feel like they should have just cut that back, made it clear, but you know. Das Germans magnetic Torx drivers. That way.
Nice. Stop saying it. You keep saying it.
The entire bottom of this car is an aero plate, so it's not gonna hit the floor. Nick, I need a light over here. Stand on that side. Shine it where I'm pointing.
Deploying flashbang.
Super careful. Super careful. Okay. See? All that for that. Look, that was enough for me to go, and then look at that. It's like they thought of that notch, but they were not happy enough about bringing it all the way out, right? Whoop, see how it lines up now? There's so much shit going on in here. This carbon is coming on top of the bump stuff. All right, so I gotta undo that T30, that T30, and then there's a T30 right here. You can actually see it through the grill. This gives me a little more room. Yeah, see, it's right there. By the way, I'll try to remember to put links to all, like some of these tools that you should have if you're a car enthusiast down in the description. This is a plastic impact set for wheels and stuff. 17, 19, 21, 22, your most common wheel sizes. Plastic sleeved, so that you don't go tearing up your nice wheels. No, what I was starting to say is that's why I got this little guy. Those 3 screws are done, or bolts are out. So like I said, there's a nub, and an electrical connection under here. So the video I watched, because there is a video, Keys Motorsports actually did a full teardown of the rear end of the car. They were doing an exhaust. He was like, these little nubs don't seem like much. He's like, but they have a lot of force. So I also want to make sure that I don't go damaging anything here. So for good measure, I'm gonna do this. Even though it has a PPF on it, because you can damage PPF too. I'm gonna put a few layers of this on there. Anyone's ever worked on cars and dealing with panel flips, you know. Yeah, hold that side. I also have to make sure I don't pull it too hard and go boink, because there's a wire under there. I do it. All right, see? I'm making this wire too hard. Whoa, all right.
You got it?
You got it. Heavy. It's surprisingly heavy, huh? This is when you just start taking things apart. Now I'm in uncharted territory because everything I've seen so far is just the performance wing. Nobody has shown a teardown of the pop-up wing. You know what show I've been watching a lot of lately? Knight Rider. I started back in the first episode, 1984, baby. Jeez. And I realized, like, the very first episode where he introduces himself, like, to Kit, or Kit introduces himself and he explains everything it can do, I was like, it just sounds like they're describing a Tesla today.
Yeah, it drives itself. Well, Teslas don't have jump jets.
Yet.
Yeah.
Okay, I have effectively removed every bolt I can kind of see.
So close.
Because I can get this to scoot over now, right? It's just like, it's just right there! I feel so defeated at the moment.
Just because there's no way to remove that
There's
trim
no way to
piece.
remove that without the bumper coming off, which means I have to take off the wheel, take off the wheel liner, I have to take off the heat shields and next to the wheels. I have to take. I'll make my own jack pad, god damn it! And yes, I know it's a hacksaw! Miss Lorena bobbited that shit.
I eyeballed it properly.
Redneck for the win!
So it's safe, right? It's on the jack points and stuff? No, as in, like, that's why.
No, that's a lock.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it comes with it. The car.
Yeah, but they didn't give you that. That was scary with how much I was having to pry on this bumper.
Dude, it made the creakiest creaking.
To get it just enough clearance, I had to actually undo the bolts that hold this rear pan, this whole structural piece in place. There's bolts back here, there's bolts up here, there's bolts here, and it allowed me to move this just enough to get to this. And check this out. Fuck!
It's all because these things, huh?
This is what I cared about most. They haven't even seen the spoiler yet. It's like the biggest tease video I've ever had. So there's even more, like, not irreversible mods, but there's a bracket I have to drill out rivets for, and I'll show you that in a second. But I have to prepare this piece now. So this is the vent that goes in there. And one of the benefits of doing this too is it allows just a little bit more ventilation to the hatch. Okay, so I'm starting to put this all back together now. These brackets right here, you can see the holes are a little elongated because they're designed to give you, this is how you're gonna make the deck lid fit forward and back. So there's some adjustment here. The deck lid, remember, is attached to the spoiler. So there might be some on-off needed so I'm not mounting these down just yet. So I'm mounting the plate down. These pieces like I already talked about, I think we have to order those kind of a collared nut, which is almost like a riv nut, but it's reverse threaded because of the standoff. It's amazing how like tough this bumper is already without bending, without that even being attached. For now, I'm gonna leave it unattached because of the fact that this is all gonna be coming off again anyway when the exhaust is getting done in a few weeks. So going back together is a lot simpler though than the other one was to come out. I'm trying to line all the bolts back up on the existing components I took out with where their marks were, like the circle that it kind of cuts into the paint. That way everything can line back up. By doing so means that These body lines are gonna stay flush. The height's gonna stay flush. Same thing with over here. But I had to do a little bit of adjustment to get it all to kind of fit back where it was supposed to. And I'm trying to make sure that these all stay as centered as possible. So I'm gonna try and do like the outsides first. Kind of like I would do a GPU block installation. And then it's these that I have to drill out the rivets on, I was telling you. That rivet, and that rivet have to come out to let this bump stop come up. This bump stop is what was stopping the spoiler when it would go down. So it wouldn't go down too far or whatever. Fortunately, that's not irreversible. If I ever have to put this back, I'm gonna mark it L and R just like I did the other pieces, so I can put it back if I ever need to and just re-rivet that down. That's not a big deal. There. So this little retention, nub retention deal has to come off because that's actually where our bracket that I showed you, the metal one's gonna attach. And then the new one will attach to that bracket. So we gotta take this off. And again, I'm keeping track of all of this stuff and where it goes because it can be reversed if I ever need to. So this is the halter, like I said, this is what the spoiler will bolt to. It goes down into the frame like this. These two holes line up with these two holes, and then this lines up with this hole in the frame right there. So slide it down in there like that. Sort of. Just get in there! There we go. So as soon as I line up the two holes right there, you can see that other hole is right there. If you're someone watching this video because you're like, how the hell do you install one of these things? You probably said as many cuss words as I have by now. It's all worth it, I think. So these are those nubbins, like I said. I only put in one bolt, the one closest to the back of the car on each side, because you have to actually rotate this up out of the way to get to this bolt that goes through the spoiler. So you can put that last one in at the end and tighten it down, but I'm not putting both in, otherwise I'd be undoing it to get that bolt in. This is the part everyone has been waiting for. This is my 1016 Industries spoiler. So, get an idea of the height and stuff that this is going to sit on there. It's going to look pretty cool, I think. Sick. So if we look at this part right here, now you can see what I mean by it's going to pass through the spoiler. So the bolt goes through this thing, and then this tab and this piece index down in here. All right, so now you can see what I was talking about when I say the spoiler passes through this deck lid piece. So then it gets bolted on there and there. And that is just superficial. That's more or less just to keep the deck piece to the spoiler. The spoiler mounts down through this hole here. So that's why I'm using my trusty iFixit kit to mount this down with some blue Loctite. There we go. It is now like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We started at 10. We are 5 hours in. Mostly because we were having to figure out
how to disassemble things.
Yeah, getting everything off, like getting the trim pieces off and this piece off, which took maybe 15 minutes, was as far of a tutorial I was able to find online. The rest of it was like, good fucking luck, because apparently nobody does this except me.
I was like, as soon as you figured it out, it's like, okay, now what? And then we're just like staring at it forever.
They were like, what happens if I undo this bolt? Nothing. So I'm tightening up the bolts now that go through the part of the spoiler that I showed you. I already did the other side. What you guys didn't see was a lot of adjustment on those halters. Now, those halters have a lot of up and down adjustment, which I already showed you. So it's about to be tight and tight. So the spoiler is now installed. I have not mounted any. There's two 10 mils that go in right here, and then two more 10 mil bolts that go in that way. So there's nuts that go in there on the studs, and then bolts that attach to the front of this. But right now, that panel is as good as connected because the spoiler is mounted to the halters, mounted to the chassis, mounted to the frame, which is the same thing as chassis. And as you can see now, the spoiler's on now. I'm very happy. I'm very happy with the way the spoiler turned out. I was worried because I was like, should I go with the stock spoiler? Or while I'm in there, should I go something aftermarket? And Nick was like, you know, the fact that you put a tune on your base, you know, now you're putting spoiler and stuff, is like putting premium parts on a base model. I was like, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. But by not doing the OEM spoiler means I'm not putting the premium part from Audi on the non-premium model. It's just weird to even have the word Audi R8 and non-premium in the same sentence. But hey, McLaren base, right? There's lots of 670 LT bases and stuff. It's like, oh, you only got the $300,000 base car from McLaren? Yeah, whatever. So see how these parts right here are kind of teetering? This is where I was showing you we take out this one bolt right here. That way we can lift it up. And that's the only way you can get the long bolt in there that goes through the spoiler. But this sucker is mounted. From this point on, I believe everything to just be the reverse of what you've already seen. I have a bolt that goes here, and I have a bolt that goes here. And then there's no way you're gonna be able to see it on the camera angle, but if you come in here and you look, you can see straight through like a notch. There's a 10 mil bolt that goes on the stud sticking off of this piece right here, which will hold it down in the back. That way there's not this gap right here. So what I'm gonna probably end up doing is taking my extensions and actually like electrical taping the nut onto the end of my socket. That way I can get it started, because it falls down in there. It's 10 mil nut, I'll grab another one. They'll all eventually shake out. So I'm gonna put those bolts in that you just saw. Putting everything else back together is a reverse order of what you've already seen. So I think at this point, we should just get it all back together, put it on the ground, and then we'll take a look at how it looks. Yeah, final piece is going in. Last 6 bolts right there, and then it's, well, I got to put the little dry soap cover back on. But it's attached. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Everything lines up. You know, I had to make sure it was all gonna line up perfectly because this is all coming back off to do this, to do the exhaust. I'm not doing the exhaust. I'm actually having Royalty Exotics do it in Vegas. So there'll probably be a video on that, at least for me. I doubt they'll do one. But, like if I wanna get really anal, there's areas that are gonna be like, oh, this is like 1 millimeter higher, but it's better than my Camaro's fitment, I can tell you that. So, but you know what we gotta do? After we drop it down, we gotta install VDCS on my laptop, plug in that cable, code out the electronic retractable spoiler. Then we won't get the doot, beep, 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 beep on the dash every time I turn on the car. All right, so we have VDCS connected. Like I said, this is basically like a dealer scan tool emulator. Got my Hex V2 connected under the dash. You can see it blinking green. So now we want to disable, obviously, and we don't want to mess with anything else because we could really screw up the car.
This is the raw configuration file of these modules.
Yes, and this is all this is a hexadecimal code. Really, that's all it is. And this number in this sequence means something to the computer and what's activated. So each digit means something. So I'm scrolling over to 14, which is instrument cluster for rear spoiler. Yes, and I unchecked it. Bit 7 was checked to say yes, there's a spoiler. Now that's off. But what I did was I copied the long code and saved it. That way, if I mess this up somehow, I could literally just paste the old code back in there and save it. That way I can go back if I screwed something up. So once I made the change there and closed out, it changed it there. So it should change the decimal somewhere on here. Do it. Coding accepted. So now that we've told the instrument panel to ignore any warnings that would come from the rear spoiler, we still have to disable the rear spoiler in the system as well. So I'm also gonna back up this code. So that was the instrument long code default. And I'm gonna copy this long code also. There it is. Save, because backups are very important. So that's saved there now. I've got the original codes. We'll go to long code helper, go over to module, what is that? 8, something like that. Rear, there it is right there. Module 6, rear spoiler installed. So we'll check that. Now there is no more rear spoiler installed, which is referring to the pop-up, because remember that'd be this is things communicating with the vehicle. A stationary spoiler like we just installed is not communicating with the vehicle. So we'll save that. It'll change the code. We'll say do it. Coding accepted. So the camera battery died. That's all this project's taken.
Yay!
All right, so as I was saying, we saved that code. We made the change. It accepted the code. Go back and exit. I can now push the button to turn the car off. Disconnect my interface, move my computer, open my door, start my car, and then we should not get any sort of weird warnings. I can open it in here, you know.
Oh, my bad. I want something to do too, you know?
All right, we ready?
button does nothing and we have no warnings.
All right, you guys wanted a car video. It just happened to be about a car you weren't expecting to see, I think. All right, thanks for watching. You subscribe so we can see next year's video.